Behind OFQ, you do past, present, future. Woo woo.
Perfect. It's so good, right? You know, we made a list of all the things that could go wrong filming a live podcast, and this was not on it. In one of your books, you said the fuel for conversation is questions.
I said it's curiosity.
Explain it.
Well, how many times have you shown up into a conversation and delivered exceptional advice?
Every time I open my mouth.
For entirely the wrong problem.
Probably.
For entirely the wrong problem, right? The advice didn't stack up for the circumstance because the other person's inside voice is saying, well, that's not it. That's not, you don't see the world through my eyes, you're missing something. And we've done this as parents. I think anyone listening in as a parent we've all been guilty of jumping straight into advice monster mode.
Dude, I just want you to know, Phil, I've been giving my kid, he's 11, the best advice in the world. And he's not listening to any of it.
Right.
And I think there's something maybe wrong with him.
The goal for all of us is to understand somebody else's context before we insert our content.
Understand their context before we install our content. What do you mean by that?
Well, your advice is only valuable when contextualized. And if the advice doesn't have an application that the other person has decided is relevant, your advice wasn't valuable. And I'll make this clear for a lot of real estate professionals, influencers, and entrepreneurs that are producing content right now. You share things like, I've been pouring so much value out into the world. You don't get to decide if it's valuable.
Ouch.
It's only valuable if the person on the other side of it says that that was valuable. And I believe that we miss so much opportunity by forgetting that people make decisions for their reasons and not yours. You put effort and energy and creativity and expertise and wisdom and past experience. All these things could be going into what's there, but it isn't valuable unless somebody else finds it valuable. And that's about contextualizing it, right? I could give you an inflatable dinghy right now and you think I'm a lunatic.
Yes.
However, if you are struggling to be able to breathe and in a choppy ocean and the water is lapping up at you and you're realizing you should have spent more time learning to swim, there's a strong possibility you might appreciate that buoyancy aid at that point, and that would be highly valuable to you, to a point that you might even consider parting with some cash for it.
Yes.
If you had the ability to do so, particularly if you were competing with somebody else for that same buoyancy aid. That's contextualizing value. It isn't what I give, it's what you get. I just delivered a training for some professionals here at the event that we're at for Family Reunion with some really amazing Keller Williams agents. And the presentation was titled To Help People Master Their Listing Presentation. And I spent 90 minutes with people sharing with them to not give a listing presentation.
Wow. How'd that go over?
Well, we'll find out with the feedback, right?
What was your point?
My point was to do the work to understand the other person's circumstances truly, is to help the person not sell the house. My point was to take enough time to understand that your true differentiator is your realization of that other person's unique set of circumstances, not your list of 57,000 bullet points about why your dad's better than their dad.
Well, I think it's harder, though, perhaps, because when someone says to me, by the way, there's no wrong way to do it.
Right.
We released an episode of the podcast by a brilliant real estate agent. His name is Jeff Glover, and he's taken over 10,000 listings in his career.
Okay.
Brilliant guy. And the way that he came up in practice was you learned your listing presentation. You chanted it every day for 30 days by yourself. You then hand wrote it, the entire thing, every day for 30 days. You hand wrote it every day for 30 days. Then you role play it every day for 30 days. Sure. And by the end of it, you just know these words in this order.
Right.
And he's had wild success with that. But I'm taken with an idea, which is you can definitely learn a script, but what you're talking about is the opposite of a script. That seems scarier and harder.
Much, much scarier. And what I work to teach people to do is not to learn a script, but to write a screenplay.
What does that mean?
Is you're looking to create a performance. Great, you can learn a script, but the trouble is nobody trained the other person on their lines.
It's true.
Right, so it doesn't play out the way it is, and then they train, well, you just learn the script, and when the other person doesn't do their part, just plow straight through it and keep going. And I do think you can win business with highly polished sequences of words and a bucket full of charisma and giant energy. And sales is a transfer of enthusiasm. So enthusiasm is amplified with confidence. And if you're confident about what it is you're saying, your enthusiasm will shine at a higher level, and that you can plow through and win some more victories through having those high levels of competence.
Dude, that was so good. Say all that again. I want to get, what is sales again?
I said sales is a transfer of enthusiasm a lot of time.
Sales is a transfer of enthusiasm.
And the job is to get the other person as excited or more excited by the outcome than you are for themselves. Now, you can push somebody to that. You can curate that outcome by setting the metronome for the pace of the direction of the conversation. You can do that, and that will work with some of the people some of the time. It will also repel a good number of people. When the opportunity is buoyant enough that you can plow straight through and accept that there'll be some collateral damage as you go, we can get heroic results. But you still don't understand the collateral damage. Let's look at it from a marketing point of view. I see this happen all the time. People will say things like, I sent this email blast. It went out to 2,700 people, and we got 32 inquiries, and we got 17 appointments, and we won 5 pieces of business. That email campaign was a huge success. I'm like, well, what about the thousands of people that now think less of you?
Wow.
Because what you shared with them is something that was highly unrelatable, that showed you're not listening, showed you're not empathetic, showed that you're not relatable, therefore you're not useful. Now, how many real estate agents right now are dripping on customers that didn't do business last year?
Plenty.
And what they're doing is they're dripping things on them that are now no longer what that person is looking to have help with.
I'm just going to foreshadow, if you don't tell us what to actually drip, they're going to run us out of this building in a minute. Because it just got dark as 1,000 midnights in this room.
You cannot assume that what somebody told you once before in the past is still true today.
Okay.
So what somebody told you their needs, desires, hopes, ambitions were in their real estate goals in August of 2023, that when you showed them that, they didn't act on that, you should be pretty darn certain that they don't want what they said they wanted.
Wow.
So do the work to reinsert yourself in the conversation and get to a point that you understand what they may or might or could or potentially be looking for by alternative, and then shift your communication towards that.
I love that, but that implies that we're having the conversation. And here's what we know. We know that the number of real estate agents that are waking up and on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis calling in a TCPA-friendly and compliant way, everybody in their database is significantly less than we'd like it to be.
And when they don't know what to say, and when they do say, show up and they make the calls, is they start phone calls justing all over people. And what do I mean by that is like, I'm just checking in, I'm just circling back, I'm just trying to touch your base and other inappropriate things.
Did you say that's called justing all over
That's
people?
what I call it. It's just like, the words just are forcing permission. You didn't have permission to make the ask you're about to ask, so you create permission by justing. And we do it in our personal lives too. Like you're running late to get out of the house and you're saying to the other half, like, I'm just trying to send this one email, or I'm just looking to be able to, get this thing tidied up from the kitchen, or I just need to grab my jacket.
Who have you been talking to about me?
See, these things are true because they're regularly true. What I believe with every ounce of my being is every word that leaves your mouth is helping or hurting.
Wow, that's such an indictment.
Everything is helping or hurting. Therefore, if it's not helping, it's hurting. And if you want to argue with me that the words you're using that aren't helping or hurting are neutral, then that means they're a waste.
Wow, you must have thought about this ahead of time.
Yeah, more than twice.
Yeah. So okay, so instead of adjusting, what do I do? What do I say?
We gain permission. And we write about it in exactly what to say for real estate with a simple structure called OFQ, which is opening fact question. If you're reconnecting with anybody about anything, because you create a polite opening, a mutually agreeable fact, and an easy to answer question. Structure, method.
Okay, explain it to me like I'm a Cocker Spaniel or a small child.
Okay.
Pretend I'm a real estate agent over here. Walk me through an example.
Well, give me a scenario and I'll prove how the structure helps.
Well, I got this data bank. It's full of all the people that know me and like me, and I care deeply about them, which is why I've been ignoring them for the last 2 years.
Yeah, they love you so much.
Right.
And just touch that for a second. Is there are lots of people you are calling your past clients that are not calling you their agent? But that's another thing.
Well, okay, I'm about to just all over you. Let's come back to that. I'm gonna put a pin in that one. So I got people that I haven't been purposeful about contacting that I need to contact.
Okay. And this is a telephone outreach?
It's telephone outreach in a TCPA-friendly, compliant way, and it's been a year.
It's been a year. And what happened prior that meant they found themselves in your database? What was the known piece of evidence?
We did business a year ago. I sold them a house.
You sold them a house a year ago. And what do you want to happen as a result of your just checking in conversation?
See, this is that thing you do. You ask all these questions all the time. I've watched you do this with other people. You never actually... This is so instructive.
This is the interview where Phil interviews Jason.
This is sales for you, though. This is how you communicate with people.
Why would you not?
I wanted to demonstrate it because the vast majority of people in my life stop with me on the first question, or they simply answer what I'm asking. Mm-hmm. And it's so apparent to me whenever we speak that you care deeply about understanding me and what I'm really trying to accomplish. That in and of itself is either the greatest model or system, or maybe you just really care that much.
Sure. Maybe a combo of both.
Yeah. I think the number one use case is I have these customers, I did business with them at some point, and we just lost touch. Okay. And I'd like to get repeat and referral business. Okay.
So you're going to use the truth. You're going to pick up the phone and you're going to say, "Hi, it's Jason." I would suggest you all use your own names.
It's fair.
And then I'm going to insert a mutually agreeable fact or a series of mutually agreeable facts. This is what's going to earn me my permission.
What's a mutually agreeable fact?
It's something that you know is true and that they know is true too. Something that cannot be doubted. So I'm going to use the fact that, 13 months ago, we worked together to be able to help you buy the home at 123 Main Street.
Yes.
A lot's happened since.
Yes.
And there's been plenty of changes, both locally and nationally, in the real estate market.
Yes.
Right? Mutually agreeable facts.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can argue. And their inside voice is like, well, that's reasonable, that's reasonable, that's reasonable. This is me earning permission. Then I'm going to put an easy to answer question. This is the part of OFQ that so many people struggle with because they put a hard to answer question. Like a hard to answer question is like, how are things with you? That is a ridiculously hard question to answer, which is why every time that somebody asks you, how are you, you lie.
I'm great.
Right? We don't tell the truth when somebody asks.
Best day ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we put a big question, or, I was checking in to see if there's anything I do to help you. Like we walk ourselves straight into a cul-de-sac and get to a fast no. What we're looking for with an easy to answer question is something they can respond to effortlessly that buys us the next 30 seconds. Easy to answer question in this scenario might be, are you folks still living in the house?
Yes.
They're like, I know this one. Yes, we're still here. Behind OFQ, you do past, present, future. Woo woo.
Perfect. It's so good, right? We made a list of all the things that could go wrong filming a live podcast, and this was not on it. It's just...
I've had this go on in live presentations before. And the point is that what we cannot assume is it's a test, but we can assume that until somebody tells us otherwise, it's a test.
Yeah. Trisha?
It's a beautiful voice recording, though.
It is really nice. Okay, so we still have flashing lights from an alarm, which, by the way, always gives you something new to say anytime an alarm goes off.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I think we need to build an opening fact question around how you would deal with an alarm-based situation.
The opening fact questions sounds really simple, but as I was sitting here kind of thinking about it, it's hard unless you practice them.
That's right. That's right. And I think in your profession, you can think of at least 100 conversations you open on repeat, on repeat, on repeat. And when you can think about the 100 conversations you open on repeat, you should be able to create 3, 5, 7 different polite openings, mutually agreeable facts, easy to answer questions, and then build yourself a bigger pantry that you would then step into live environments and not need to have to know your lines.
I'm thinking about a lot of the conversations I have, and a lot of them start with, hey, you got a second?
That's right.
Is that the worst or the best?
No. It's not either of those two things. When you start a phone call with the words, do you have a moment to talk? There was a period of time that was a great way to start a phone call, and that period of time ended about 1996. And it was when we started to get caller ID and had some visibility on who it was that was calling, and we had some jurisdiction over whether this call was necessary or not.
Oh my gosh, you're suggesting that if they know I'm calling and they answer, then I should just assume they have a moment to talk.
Well, what would you do if I was calling your phone and it wasn't a good time? Would you pick up?
It's always a good time for you.
I don't believe you.
No,
Because if you're busy doing the thing you're doing, right? Your phone rings right now and it causes you a distraction. If you looked at your phone and was like, I'm in the middle of this, you just ignore it,
Sure.
Move it to silent, etc. So if you start a phone call with the words, "is now a good time to talk," in today's age, what you're actually doing is you're adding a sense of importance to this conversation that is making the other person potentially feel anxious. So if somebody says to you today, have you got a minute? Do you think this is good news or bad news?
Yeah, bad news. So if I say, do you have a minute, and then you say, yeah, and I say, I'm just checking in, I've really taken you
You're
on
like,
the journey.
what the heck? I thought you were going to tell me about something bad that happened to somebody we care about, or some problem with a house, or some, like, it was automatically bad news.
It's just an update.
I mean, it's good that this comes up in some ways, though, because don't you get interrupted in day-to-day life? Doesn't it cause challenges that you've got an intention and the universe has other plans?
Yes.
So we've now got it in a live podcast. We've got strobing lights, and we have background noise.
I guess I could ask you a mutually agreed upon question like, doesn't this suck?
Or how much does this suck?
How open-minded are you to this being the worst podcast you've been in?
Could it be possible, though, that this is still the greatest show that we've recorded to date?
Damn right.